Hello everyone, this is Javiera for 1133podcast.com, and today I am with another amazing person that comes forth to talk about their path and the truth and share about their experiences. So today we are with David Young. For those of you who don't know him, David is a twice Grammy-nominated musician who can play two flutes at the same time in harmony. He has recorded over 57 albums and sold over 1 million copies. He's a healer, a channel, a writer of 3 books, an artist, and it is said that more people have had out-of-body experiences while listening to his music than any other musician alive today. So, David, it is a pleasure to have you here in the show, and welcome.
This is correct.
This is what an introduction, David. I'm so honored to be with you today and sharing space with you and getting to know you better. Thank you so much for what you have shared with me already. And I'm really curious to know more about your path and what you bring to the world in such a unique and impactful way.
Well, it's my pleasure to be on the phone with you and to share my experience and the things that I've learned from doing these events that I've done. I play a flute. Everybody starts to play the recorder in 3rd or 4th grade, but recorders come in different sizes like saxophones, you know. And so there's an alto and a tenor and a bass recorder, all different sizes. They look the same, but they're just larger or smaller. And so I started playing 2 of those at one time about 24 years ago. And so when I play the 2 flutes at one time, they're different notes and they create a harmony. And that harmony of the 2 flutes creates this vibration. And the vibration is, in musical terms, called a triharmonic tone. I play my flutes into these special effects that make it sound like you're in heaven. You know, with the reverb and the delay that I use, it just sounds so ethereal. And it's actually what certain parts of heaven actually sound like. So there are people who have had near-death experiences who, while they were out of their physical body and having a spiritual experience in heaven, and when they describe the music and then they come to my event, they say my music is what the sound in heaven sounds like. In certain areas, because there's different parts of heaven that have different sounds, have different light, you know. But in the
I'm
part
so
of
intrigued
heaven,
about that. It's like I already want to jump and ask you.
Okay.
Maybe I will. I mean, we can start with this question. If you can share with us a little bit of your experiences about heaven, if you want to.
Absolutely. Well, first I need to say that even the most smartest, intelligent people on earth only use 2% of their brain. Scientists have proved this. Okay, so, and some of the politicians only use 1% of their brain. That's a joke. Okay. And so because we're only using 2% of our brain, where is the other 98%? So the other 98% is what I teach people and kind of hypnotize people with my music to go into the other 98%. Now, our brain, when we think about intelligence, right? Most people think that logic is intelligence. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to separate the difference between logic, intelligence, and how these relate to heaven. Okay?
So interesting, yes.
Okay, logic. Okay, so I'll tell you what's logical is, like, let's say somebody has to take a bus to go to work. And they take that bus because it's the fastest way to get to work. They get to the bus and in 15 minutes, that takes them to work and it's direct. The reason why they don't take a train is because the train takes 30 minutes to get to work. So logic would tell you, take the bus because it's much faster. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. So my friend goes to the bus station one day, and she's taken that bus to work every day for 2 years. She's at the bus station waiting for the bus, and the spirit of her mother comes to her. Now, her mother died 10 years earlier, okay? And her mom, as soul, appears right to her. And her mom says, "Take the train today." Well, because this is so profound and so powerful, she listens to her mother's advice. Her mother's in spirit, okay? And she takes that train. And because she takes the train, she doesn't get killed in the Boston Marathon bombing with the bus that got bombed during the Boston Marathon bombing. Now, logic would tell you, just take the bus. But your higher intelligence has access to unlimited knowledge and inner direction from heaven. So her mom came to her from heaven, told her, take the train. And she was very emphatic. It's important to take the train today. And because of that, she didn't get killed. Now, if she had just listened to her logic, many people have their logic overrule everything, even our own inner direction that we get from spirit. And believe me, I've made that same mistake many times in my life. But our higher intelligence goes much further than logic, because logic is based on a temporary circumstance here on earth. I'll say that one more time. Logic is based on temporary circumstances on earth. Okay, here's an example. Okay, logic is based on temporary circumstances on earth. So 500 years ago, if you would have said to somebody, I'm going to take a boat and I'm going to ride this boat around the world, everybody who was intelligent back then, who was educated, would say that's impossible. The world is flat. Everybody believes that the world is flat. But then Christopher Columbus discovers America, and all of a sudden, the reality of this world changes, because the reality of the world before he discovered America was that the world was flat. Now he changed reality just by sharing some truth that most people were unaware of. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, so what we look at as intelligence, the most intelligent guy, Albert Einstein, is one of the most intelligent men ever, right? Everybody knows this, right? Well, Albert Einstein said that the most important part of ourself is our imagination. Okay? Now I'm going to connect that to something else that one of my friends said. One of my friends said, unless we are like little children, we never get to see the kingdom of heaven. Okay? Now, my friend, his name is Jesus, and Jesus and Mary and Buddha and Lao Tzu and Kuan Yin, all of these ascended teachers, they all, 75 events in a row, at least 10 people at my events, 75 events in a row, have had conversations and actual experiences with Jesus, Mary, Kuan Yin, Buddha, or Lao Tzu. And so if you think about it, why do you think Jesus said, if we're not like little children, we don't get to see the kingdom of heaven? What does a little children do? What does a child do? Well, a child has an imagination. Okay? Now, many people who are coming from a very logical part of their brain will say, well, this is just my imagination. But how is it possible for 5 people in one of my workshops to see Jesus, for example, and have Jesus give all 5 people an ancient Hebrew symbol?
Right.
Obviously, there's more to the imagination, or there's another reality. If 5 people have the same exact experience with him in that meditation, or at another meditation, Kuan Yin, who is like the Asian version, the Asian Mother Mary in Asian culture, the divine feminine, right? She came to 3 women during the meditation, and she served each of them this golden light that came out of like a teapot. And instead of having tea, come out of the pot. This golden light came out of the teapot, and she served that to each of these three people. And they were so excited to realize that, wow, two other people had the same exact experience as I did. So that takes, what is reality? And what is the difference between my imagination and reality? Now, if you read every single book ever written on near-death experiences, you would find a lot in common, because when people have a near-death experience, they're disconnected from their physical body, and they basically are going to heaven for a little while. The only difference is that they're not there for good. They're only there for a little while. But they get to experience what heaven feels like and looks like, and they get to see that whatever they think of while they're in heaven, it manifests instantly. Like here on planet Earth, if you're sitting on your bed at home, right, and you think, you know what, I want to get a cup of coffee. Well, you have the thought, then you sit up, and then you walk through your bedroom to the kitchen, you get and all that stuff takes time, right? Even if it was 5 seconds, but it took steps of time to get into the kitchen to get that cup of coffee. When you're having a near-death experience, or when you're having an out-of-body experience where you're aware of yourself in heaven, there is no time. So it's instant. You think, oh, I want to have a cup of coffee. You don't have to get up and walk through the room and walk through the kitchen. I want a cup of coffee, and instantly you're in the kitchen and you have a cup of coffee in your hand. They don't have time in heaven. And this is the best way that I can explain it, because it took me so long to wrap my mind around it myself. So what I'm trying to say is that all the people who've had these near-death experiences, who describe the same thing, describe that when they were in that heavenly state, in that energy form of themselves as spirit, whatever they thought about manifested instantly. That's how heaven works. It's different than life on earth.
Right.
You know what I mean? In life on earth, we think about something and then we plan it and then we do it. And there's this whole process where there is not that process in the next dimension that you can call heaven, or the inner planes, or the heavenly worlds.
Right. So what you do with your music, what makes your music so unique that can connect people to get into those realms? And to bypass the logical mind, as you were saying before.
Well, I have a really magical shirt, and every time I wear this magical shirt, people have these incredible experiences. No, I'm just kidding. You know, man, if I didn't have that shirt, you know, like Superman has his cape, you know. Well, it's really funny because I really didn't understand when all this stuff started to happen. Which was about 1.5 years ago.
Oh, I'm curious about when it started to happen as well. If you want to share that.
Yeah, of course. You know, we're such old friends. I'm happy to share anything with you. What happened was that I wrote a book that's called Divine Inner Guidance. Okay, you can get that book on my website, davidyoungmusic.com, or you can get it on amazon.com. And what this book was about was all the magical synchronicities that had happened in my life, all in a form of short stories. So it was really easy to read. And so I was promoting this book, and I was telling some of these magical stories in my life. And after talking for a half hour, I said, you know what? Why don't I play the flute for you guys for a little bit? And you guys can relax, close your eyes, and see what happens. Now, at that point in my life, I had been meditating for 30 years. And, you know, from doing this for such a long time, people would always tell me that when their eyes were closed and they were meditating while they were listening to my CDs, they would say they would see different colors of light in their inner vision. So at these events, I was just figuring, okay, well, maybe people will see some nice colored lights, or maybe they'll experience some inner peace, you know. And so after the meditation was done, a half hour later, and I was playing the flute, I said, who would like to share their experiences? And the first person said, I just connected with my grandfather. He was my favorite grandfather. And he came to me, and he was like all happy and filled with light. And he took me to heaven, and he introduced me, reconnected me to all my relatives in heaven. I got to see all of my relatives. And it was just wonderful. It was awesome. And I didn't know what to say, because I didn't even know that was possible.
Amazing.
Okay. And then I wish I had a picture of my face after that first person shared that experience, because, I was in front of an audience, so I couldn't go like, I couldn't make a face of what I was really thinking, And then the next person shared her experience that her best friend from childhood, who had died a couple of years earlier, came to her. And she was happy and filled with love and light. And she was so happy to see this person who was at the event. And she shared this whole amazing experience, And then the next person, it was just, once that started, it never stopped. Now, can you imagine how surprising that would be for me? To think that I'm just hoping that people are going to experience some inner peace and maybe see some nice, pretty light in their inner vision, and they start sharing experiences like that.
What were your first thoughts?
I didn't know what to think. When somebody tells you something that you think is not possible, and it happens, what do you say?
You just accept it, I guess.
Yeah, right. And the fact that it never stopped became a part of my experience. So it's a unique way. I've come up with a new way of describing this, right? I always knew that my music was positive. It had spiritual energy in it. And that I was doing a good thing when I was doing this music. I sold way over 1 million CDs. I've recorded so many CDs. It's crazy. It's hard to count them all, But I didn't know, and this is going to be something that your listeners, it may turn the lights on in a way when they hear this for them. But I didn't know that by creating this positive music and this positive energy, I didn't know that this was connecting me and aligning me with the ascended masters who create positive things for people. Buddha and Jesus and all of them, and the archangels, I didn't know that these guys were aware of me playing my flutes. And I didn't know that they had a job for me to participate in what they are doing, helping people. It's just like a person who starts doing massage therapy, right? They just want to do massage therapy. So after a year or so, they realize that this energy is coming through their hands. And you could call it healing touch, or you could call it Reiki. And they realize, wow, I am more than just a massage therapist. I am channeling this energy to my clients. And some people call this energy Reiki. Are you with me?
I am.
Okay. So they start out as a massage therapist, but all of a sudden this energy from spirit or from someplace outside themselves, is flowing through them, and they can feel it, and it's helping their clients. And so they think, wow, this is cool. My client can feel it. I feel the energy coming through me. This is great. Well, the next thing that happens is that this person starts getting messages from spirit to give to the client. Okay? And the message is, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't eat so much fried food. Or maybe you should have some more vegetables in your diet. Or whatever message spirit is giving them to give to the client. Okay? So now this person who started out as a massage therapist, became a Reiki practitioner, is now giving health benefits from spirit that she's receiving to give to the client. And then the next thing that happens is, because she's so used to giving these messages that spirit is giving her to give to the client's mother or grandmother or somebody close to her life starts giving the massage therapist a message to give to her. because she's so used to giving these medical messages to the client. Spirit uses her now to give a message from one of her loved ones in heaven to the client. Now, when she started out, she just wanted to be a massage therapist.
Right.
Okay? She had no idea that Spirit was going to use her in these different ways to help people even more. And that's the best way I can use as an example that I was just playing my music. I knew it was spiritual. I knew it was good stuff. I knew it was good energy. But I had no idea that we as physical people, as humans, could actually be part of the whole heavenly team that are helping with the upliftment of mankind. And whether a person is doing that to one person at a time, like a Reiki practitioner, right? Or whether somebody's doing it to a group of 30 people or 50 people at a time, the whole point is that the universe uses us and the good things that we do to help people. And that's what life is really all about.
What I'm hearing from what you're saying, and it's amazing what you are sharing, is that apparently you have been, and correct me if I'm wrong, really, really connected with your own path. Like you sound like someone who always enjoyed what you were doing. And you were always
I always enjoyed music.
Yes. And you were saying that you didn't know what was going to happen, right? But it sounds like you were always aligned with giving your best there for some reason.
Right. I got an example that I know you can relate to, because I know before the interview started, you said you like to surf.
Right.
Okay. Now, do you think you're the greatest surfer in the world?
Absolutely not.
Okay. But you started to surf because it made you feel good, right?
Yes.
And let's say you go to surf one day and there are some kids there, some young girls, right? And they think look how beautiful she is, and she has such nice energy. Oh, I wish I could surf like her. And so because these kids are so nice to you, you decide, I'm going to help these kids learn how to surf because they don't know how to surf. Okay? And they love the way you teach her because your heart is so open and your energy is so good. And those kids tell their friends in school, hey, I went to Javiera. She taught me how to surf, and look how good I can surf right now, right? And so they bring 3 more friends from school. And now you got 6 kids that you're teaching how to surf. And they all say, oh, I love your energy and teach me how to surf in such a great way, right? And 20 years goes by, and you have a surfing school, and you are now a famous surfing instructor. Now, you started to surf because you just enjoyed it, and you helped somebody just because you have love in your heart, and you helped them, and it was no problem, Mm-hmm. That's how life works. That's the way I got a career in music, playing this music that I'm playing. I always enjoyed it. There was always good energy that came from it, and that's the way it happened. I didn't expect people to be telling me that they reconnected with their grandmother or their mother or father or anything. That would be like you having, now there's 200 kids who are coming to get surfing lessons from you, and you didn't. That wasn't your intention in the beginning. You just did it because you enjoyed it and you knew there was good energy in it.
That's a really funny example. But I guess,
wouldn't it be funny? Hey, wouldn't it be funny if 20 years from now you're a famous surfing instructor? You have your own school, and
you never know
maybe
with
I can
life.
Get a surfing lesson. Yeah, right.
I'm curious to know, because this started happening only a year and a half ago. You were mentioning just before the interview how busy you've been, right? And things are like really, really taking off. So my question would be, how has this affected your personal life? Like in the amount of hours that you dedicate to this, in the amount of you move a lot, you travel a lot. How do you cope with that?
Well, the energy at these events, like a normal event that I do is between 2.5 and 3 hours. So for the first 20 minutes, I talk to the audience and I introduce myself and I explain to the audience what over 2,000 people have experienced at my events during the past 2 years. And this opens their mind up to the possibility. Okay? So then I do the first meditation, which is like a half hour, 20 minutes to a half hour. And then when that's done, what I do in the meditation is I play my flutes on top of one of my CDs. And the CDs that I use the most, that you can see on my website, I use Creation a lot. I use Peace for Now a lot. I use Deep Spirit a lot. I've got 57 albums, and about 14 of them are made for meditation. And I play along with my CD on top of the CD. Okay? So when I'm done doing that, people have a chance to share. Okay? And the sharing is, I don't want to say it's the best part, because for some people, the music and the experience of what they experience while I'm playing, and their eyes are closed and they're meditating and they're having a conversation with one of the ascended masters or archangels or one of their loved ones, then they share. And when they start sharing, that is when for me, the most magical time to hear right after somebody's had a conversation with Mother Mary or with any of the ascended masters, or Gandhi. Gandhi appears all the time. Okay. Albert Einstein appeared to, I think, 5 people last month. King Solomon from the Bible appeared to 4 people last month. It's just incredible. And because people have just had the experience and everybody in the room is now so open, when each person shares, it feels like you're tasting that experience that they're sharing because you're so open, and that person just had it, so they know all the details, every detail of what happens in the story.
Yes. I wonder if you have a feeling, like when you say, for example, Jesus, Buddha, Kuan Yin, even Gandhi, if there is a shared feeling of personality, if they come with similar jokes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. They are usually funny.
Right.
Usually.
And what are the messages?
Well, each experience that somebody has, the ascended teacher gives them a specific message that is pertaining to a part of their life, But if there's a universal message, it's that, and there are hundreds of people who have been told by Jesus or Buddha or whoever that we are the same. We are equal and we are one. That is the most universal message. But there's always a message specifically for people about something, that's for them, that relates to a part of their life, And if you think about it, here's a unique perspective. And so you grew up in South America. So, like Catholic religion is very, very prominent in South America,
Exactly.
And one of the things that the religious organizations have created is this incredible pedestal of putting Jesus or Mary up on this incredible pedestal. Now, there's a reason for that why they did that. If the church would have said, as long as you love Jesus or Buddha, whoever, as long as you love Jesus and as long as you talk to him inwardly, he's going to hear every word that you say and he will help you with it. If they had said that, then there would have been no need for a church. Okay? So what they create is they create this pedestal that the only way to get to Jesus or to get salvation or whatever, or to get to heaven, the only way to get there is by coming through our church, putting in a little bit of money every Sunday, reading our book. And if you don't do it, there's going to be some terrible stuff that's going to happen to you for eternity. So that's how religions were created. Now, I need to tell you something, and this was weird for me to find out, and the way this kind of got resolved in my life was, and the way I was given insight into the truth of this, was incredible. So I found out that the first mention of the virgin birth of Jesus was added to the Bible 281 years after Jesus had already died. Okay, if that was the most important thing, the foundation of Christianity, why didn't they put that in the first paragraph, in the first chapter, in the first book, on the first page? If that's the most important thing, why did they wait 281 years after he died to add that to the Bible? And the reason why was because at that period of time, this is 2,000 years ago, there were 5 other religions that all had a virgin birth as part of their religion. Buddhism has it, Mithraism, and 3 other religions that are not very known in the world right now. But there were 5 other religions in the world, and the people who were involved with promoting Christianity didn't want these other religions to have a virgin birth as part of their religion, which made it look like their religion was on a higher level than Christianity. So they added that to the Bible 281 years later after he had already died. Now, I have to tell you, the first time that I shared that with an audience, I really felt self-conscious about it, and I felt like I was almost being disrespectful to Jesus for like saying this, you know what I mean? Because it just felt so like, wow, that's a big thing to say to an audience, you know? So after the first meditation was over, I asked the people in the audience who would like to share their experiences. And a woman who had never been to any of my events, had never read any of my books, she came because a friend of hers brought her to the meditation. Okay. She raises her hand and she says, I just had my first experience with Jesus, but I don't understand why he showed up to me wearing a white, puffy pirate shirt. Now, I don't know if you read anything about this on my website, but from 1990 till 1998, on every album I ever made, at every one of my live performances, I wore a white, puffy pirate shirt. It was my trademark, 2 flutes and a puffy shirt. Okay? So every single video of me from 1990 till 1998, I'm wearing a white puffy pirate shirt with like a string around the neck, you know, like the big sleeves, you know. So if you think about it, if me saying that thing about the 281 years, you know, that the virgin birth was added to the Bible story, if that would have pissed Jesus off, he probably wouldn't have shown up wearing my shirt that everybody knows me from. You know what I mean? That's my trademark. You know?
That's very funny.
So 2 nights later, in a different city, in a different audience, different people totally. Nobody was there from the first experience where that happened, right? After the first meditation, this woman shares, I just had my first experience with Jesus, but why do you think he showed up wearing a white, puffy pirate shirt? That was the second person. 2 days later, the third person. 2 days later, the fourth person. And 2 days later, the fifth person. 5 people in that 10-day period. Jesus showed up to all of them wearing a white, puffy pirate shirt.
I guess you had the message was for you, probably.
Well, it was definitely for me to show me that by sharing that information, it was taking the pedestal down. And, you know, that whole thing, the whole thing with the pedestal it's so unnecessary. It gets in the way for all of us because there are so many people who they have put Jesus on such a high pedestal. You know, like he is holier than me, he's greater than me, you know, I will never be as great as him, all this kind of stuff. And that actually stops the person from actually having a conversation with him because you've put him so high up that it makes you feel like you're not worthy.
David, I so strongly resonate with what you're saying. The fact that you're really reaching heaven and earth, as you say in your website, it feels like you're breaking a huge belief system in this world that is putting the divinity out there and unreachable. You're actually preaching that and saying, and Jesus can also make jokes, you know?
Yeah, I mean, any of your friends makes jokes with you, right?
Exactly.
You know, and the thing is that all of that hoopla or hype or the pedestal, all of that stuff, it only makes people feel like they're not worthy. But we are completely worthy. I mean, there are over 500 people this year who, at my meditation events, have shared conversations with Jesus or Mary. Over 500 people.
There's another question that comes to me right now, and it's to ask you, have you had any ascended master coming to you and share a message for your own journey, if you want to share?
Yes. Let me tell you something that happened 2 weeks ago that was unique. It wasn't necessarily a message, but in a way it was cooler than a message. So I was doing an event on a Thursday night that was a special event to honor Mother Mary. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, I grew up in a Jewish family, and, so we didn't even talk about Jesus in our house, and we definitely didn't talk about Mother Mary in ever that I could ever remember, But over the last year and a half, she has shown up to so many people at these events. So I've got to really hear, probably 150 people share what it was like for Mother Mary to communicate with them and what message she wanted to give to them, what she wanted to teach them about themselves or help them in any way, And so I felt that from hearing about 150 people share this, I felt like I got to know her a little bit, because it was almost like 150 interviews with Mother Mary,
That sounds like a great podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah, 150 interviews with Mother Mary.
Yes.
Yeah. Inquiring minds want to know, what does Mother Mary have to say about this or that? And I'm sure she would rather be called Mary, because I'm sure nobody wants to be called Mother Mary.
I totally agree with you. That's so funny. Yes.
So the night before this event, and I had never done an event like this to honor Mother Mary. There was a channeler who is, a well-known channeler, Anna Ramundi, that was, we were doing this event together. So the night before the event, I wake up like 3:00 in the morning. I'm in my bed by myself, and I smell this scent of a rose. And this scent of a rose smells like it's right next to my face. Now, there's nobody in the apartment where I am. I went to sleep at about 11 o'clock. I didn't spray any essential oils or any fragrance. Where is this scent of this rose coming from? Okay, so I get up and I go walk to the bathroom. I use the bathroom, and this smell of this rose is following me to the bathroom, follows me back from the bathroom. I get back into my bed, and I still smell the scent of the rose right by my face. Okay, it was very peculiar. Well, the next night, I go to do this event. And the woman who had been channeling Mother Mary for 20 years said at the event that when Mother Mary appears to you, she brings the scent of a rose. I didn't know that.
Wow.
And I like the scent of roses. So she can come back anytime.
I would like to ask you, what's your Soul Ascension workshop about? I know you offer that as well.
Sure. Well, let me tell you how the name Soul Ascension Workshop became, how it became titled like that. For the first year, my events were called Soul Activation Workshops, because there was a new term that people were using, that when they went to somebody who was spiritual and they had a spiritual awakening, it was called like a soul activation, because it was like their soul was turned on or activated in a wider awareness than they had before. And so I called my events soul activation events, because that's what people were experiencing at the events. And so it made sense for me to call it a soul activation event. Okay. Well, about 2 months ago, my publicist was talking to me about sending out this a press release about the events, and by accident, he said, we need to send out the Soul Ascension press release to this person. And I said, Michael, I know you meant to say soul activation, and you said ascension by accident. But I like the sound of soul ascension more because there's this whole ascension that's been happening on the planet. And it feels like every month there's even more and more energy, and it's like this giant wave of spirituality that's happening all over the world. And I think it makes more sense to call these events soul ascension events. And so I want you to change all of the information in all of our, products and, the press releases and everything to soul ascension events. And that was at about 8:00 at night. And I didn't tell anybody because it was 8:00 at night, and the other people who work with me, it was nighttime, so they were with their families, right? So the next morning, before I have a chance to send this to anybody who's working with me, I have an email from Andrew Kane, who's the guy in New York who sets up my events in New York, and he's like my right-hand man. He helps me in all aspects of everything that's happening, with the live streaming and the events and everything. And so I get an email from Andrew Kane, and he said, I was meditating, and the Heavenly Team told me that we're supposed to change the name of the events from Soul Activation events to Soul Ascension events. So this is the reality I live in.
I love it.
And everybody can live in that event.
It's amazing. So the name is awesome.
Yeah, so, I'm not going to argue with the Heavenly Team,
I would totally not argue with that name. What happens in your workshops? What's your aim? What is it that you're offering?
Well, I do these meditations and people have a chance to share.
Perfect.
And literally 80% of the people now, because this ascension energy is really, really powerful, 80% of the people who come to the events either have an experience with one of the ascended masters or with one of their loved ones on the heavenly side. 80%, that's, you can't get much higher than that, Where in the world do you have an 80% chance of having an experience like that?
Amazing. David, can I ask you, what happens with you, like with your heart and your mind, when you're playing?
Well, it's different. It's not the same all the time. Sometimes I feel a lot of energy coming through my body, like it's powerful. There was one event that I did where Spirit just created this unique experience for me where the sound was not coming out of my flute and it was not coming out of my speakers. The sound was reflecting back to me from the center of the room about 15 feet directly in front of me. And I think one of the archangels was there just reflecting the sound back to me because I wasn't hearing it coming out of my hands or out of the speakers. It was bizarre. And that meditation was so powerful. It was about a half hour. And after the meditation was over, I started talking to people to start bringing them back to their bodies. And I couldn't get people to come back to their bodies. I talked to them for 5 minutes. They were out. A person sitting in the front row, woke up, but looked around and saw everybody else in the room was completely gone. It took me 15 minutes. And then I was getting scared. I'm thinking, what am I going to do to bring these people back, So a half-hour meditation, I'm talking to them for 15 minutes, okay? And inwardly I asked, what am I supposed to do to get everybody to come back? And so I was given the message, say, at the count of 3, everyone is going to sit up. 1, 2, 3. And the whole room sat up like magic. It was incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
That
amazing.
is amazing. What is the feeling in the room after an experience like this?
It's so thick. The energy in the room is so thick. It completely surrounds you, fills the room. Sometimes it's very difficult for people to talk because the spiritual energy is so thick in the air. And it's amazing how many people get exactly what they want. Before we start the meditation, I ask people to put out an intention. What would be the most incredible thing that if God said you could have anything in the world, any experience with any of the archangels or any of the ascended teachers, somebody you love on the other side, what would the ultimate experience be for you? And so many people get exactly what they want. One woman said she wanted her ex-boyfriend, who was the love of her life, who had died. She wanted to have an experience with him and Jesus and Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel. And this woman had to leave the room in tears because she got everything she wanted. It was so overwhelming that she couldn't speak, and she had to leave the room in tears. But a lot of people are filled with such joy and fun and happiness by having an experience with one of them. It's not always such a deep emotional, thing like that.
Right. I'm curious to know if you know of anyone that have had a healing, heals a disease or...
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hear it all the time. And my favorite one to share, there's a friend of mine, someone who's become my friend because she's come to 7 events. And her name is Violetta. She's from Bulgaria. And she was helping me set up some events in Boston. And she has been dealing with cancer over the last couple of years. And at the first, I think it was 5 events in a row, Jesus, George Harrison, and John Lennon all showed up for her in her inner vision and were helping her to relieve the pain and to help heal her and heal her DNA at, I think it was 5 of these events in a row. And then she had to go back to the hospital for some other kind of, I don't know what kind of therapy they gave her, but she was in such terrible pain. It was 10 out of 10 pain, like the worst pain in the world. And she barely could make it to the next event, which was the 6th event that she came to. And, her arms were like this skinny, and she was really, really, really suffering, And she called me a week later, and she said that after the event, for 48 hours, she was completely pain-free because of the healing energy she got from Jesus, George Harrison, and John Lennon. I think Mother Mary also came to her at that 6th event, and she was pain-free for 48 hours. But a lot of times there's different kinds of healings because there's different kinds of emotional healings. Like there's a friend of mine named Mark who had never meditated before, and he came to an event, and he was a friend of mine who was an artist. And at the first meditation, his dad appeared in his inner vision, and his dad had died 35 years earlier, and he wasn't really very close with his dad. And he said, "Dad, what are you doing here?" And his dad said, "I've always been here." And then he said, "How does it feel to be watching all the things going on in my life right now?" Because there was some drama going on in his life. And his dad said, "It's just like looking in the mirror." So ever since that, he came to another meditation a couple of months later, and he found that from coming to these events, even though he had never meditated, he didn't have any talent of channeling at all. But before that, now he's able to communicate with his dad on a daily basis. And now he's able to communicate with his mom, who's also in spirit in heaven, and his favorite brother, who's also in spirit in heaven. And so here's a guy who never meditated, never channeled, never did any of this. And now this is a part of his life all the time.
I love it. It's like, these stories are so inspiring. It's like, I already want to know, when are you going to be around in Bali, for example, or I'm going to be able to attend one of your workshops?
Well, the next best thing to being there, right, is that I just started this live streaming worldwide meditation program. Okay, so for anybody who's listening, you can get this information you can get it right on Javiera, right on your website. And what I hope stands for is imagine heaven on planet Earth. I hope. And so what that is there's going to be free streamings between now and January 24th, because my birthday is on January 23rd. So you can watch any of the programs you want for free. And then after January 23rd, if you want to get one meditation program, it's $21.60. And if you want to get a monthly of unlimited meditations where you can watch them anytime you want during the month, as many times as you want, that's $40. And it's a way for people to meditate together all around the world and experience this energy. And in the test streamings that we did, like the practice runs just for a few people, 3 people had experiences with Jesus just during the practice runs, and 2 people reconnected with their loved ones on the other side.
Oh, wow. So this is already live?
Yeah, we've done a couple of these test streamings just to make sure that the technology and everything is working correctly.
Right.
And actually, I don't know when you're going to be posting this interview. So yeah, there's going to be one this Sunday, and then starting January 15th, we have 9 events in a row.
Perfect.
I have nine cities in a row, and it's really fun to be able to connect. The weekday, like once this program goes into, I don't know how to say it, but after January 23rd, the weekday programs are going to be a half-hour meditation. And that's basically going to be me playing the flute for 20 minutes, talking for 10 minutes, and it's short and sweet because it's a weekday. But on the weekends, these will be 2-hour live events in front of an audience. So after I'm done playing, while you're watching the streaming, you're going to be able to hear people share their experiences of what they just had. And people are also going to be able to write in on Facebook, on my Facebook page, which is David Young. So this way they can share their experiences, because a lot of times people have the same exact experience. And so like there might be 1 month, let's say I do 15 events 1 month, and not one person says anything about seeing a white horse in their inner vision. Not one person. And then there could be one event where 7 people say, I saw this white horse in my inner vision, and 6 other people at the event will say, I saw the same thing, and they'll describe the whole thing the same way.
It's amazing. The impact you're creating at such a huge level, I'm impressed, David. I'm seriously impressed.
Thank you.
And I look forward to see how this is going to ripple in consciousness and awakening through, the world and the collective.
Yeah, thank you. I just started doing this because I love playing music. I had no idea. The first time I think it was about 6 months after people started sharing that they were reconnecting with their loved ones. There were 3 people at one event who said they saw Jesus standing in the same spot in the room. Like, wow, how do you wrap your mind around that? What do you think about that? And so once that started, it just really never stopped. And, he's got a lot of friends in heaven,
I can tell your friends are really special.
Yeah, they're cool, man.
I don't know if they have Facebook, but...
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of Facebook thing in heaven. They got to have it. They got everything we have here and better,
David, just to... first of all, I want to say thank you so much for sharing all these amazing stories. Like it's already been an hour, and I'm like, wow, so touched by everything you've said and so inspired. If there is any other message that you would like to share to the listeners or to the world in general, what would it be?
Just remember that everything you know, all your intelligence that you have in your logical mind, is only 2% of your total awareness. It's 2%. And the more that you allow yourself to speak inwardly and communicate with either your loved ones that are on the heavenly side or whatever angelic being that you look to, whatever ascended master you look to, every time that you start that communication with them, you are connecting with them, whether you can hear them talk back to you or not. Okay? Your relatives that you love, who are on the heavenly side, they know more about what's going on in your life than you have a clue of. I'm telling you, that's why people go to mediums and psychics, and their relatives tell you everything that's been going on in your life. That's how they know this stuff. Okay, it's just the same way as that if you go to an aquarium and you look down into the water where all those fish are, you can see them. You can look into their life. You're watching them swimming around. But they can't really see you in the same way. That's the same way our loved ones in heaven can look down into our lives and see what's going on in our lives, because they love us and they're caring for us, and they want to help us and send us their loving energy. So every time you talk inwardly to them, you're making that bridge between you and them, or between you and whatever guardian angel or ascended master you look to. You're making that pathway or that connection that much stronger. So keep doing it, and they're going to do magic in your life, and it'll make your life feel like it's gone from black and white to color, just like the same way it's done for me.
And it's getting better and better.
And it gets better all the time.
David, thank you so much for that message. It's impactful. And I appreciate so much this time that I've shared with you. And thank you so much for being in 1133 podcast.
Oh, I just want to tell you, the number that you chose for your broadcast, 11 and 33, there are a couple of numbers that repeat a lot in my life. And the number 22... So that's right in between your 11 yes. and your 33.
I was laughing when you were sharing that story with me. I was like, yeah. Of course, 22. And actually, now that I'm looking at the clock, it's 11:22. Not kidding. And it's perfect. We have recorded 1 hour and 22 minutes, in case you wanted to know. So
what could be better, huh?
Yes. What a great way to send our listeners our biggest of hugs and great intentions. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So look forward to participate in what you're bringing in this event, online event that is going to impact so many people.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I love doing it. Nice talking to you.
So great talking to you. Thank you, David.
Okay. Ciao.